For 3 centuries the bells of Veyr had greeted the dawn. They rang from the highest tower of the Lantern Basilica, their bronze voices rolling across slate roofs, narrow bridges, and the black waters of the river below. Even during plague, famine, and war, the bells had sounded. Their song assured the people that darkness was temporary. Then came the night when the bells fell silent. The sun vanished beneath the western hills as it always had, but the eastern sky never brightened. Hours passed, then a day, then 3. No stars appeared above Veyr. The moon became a pale wound behind unmoving clouds. Candles burned with thin blue flames, and every shadow seemed to lean toward the people who cast it. At first, the citizens waited. Then they began to dream. Men woke with their mouths filled with black sand. Children whispered in languages their mothers had never heard. Entire families wandered into the river while sleeping, walking hand in hand beneath the surface without struggling. Those who remained awake heard breathing beneath the streets. Ilyra Venn heard it most clearly. She served as the youngest astronomer of the Lantern Basilica, though there were no stars left for her to study. Each night she climbed the observatory tower and stared into a sky that had become an empty ceiling. On the 7th night, something stared back. It was not a face. It possessed no eyes, no mouth, and no shape that the mind could hold. Yet Ilyra felt its attention settle upon her. The darkness above Veyr was not vacant. It was occupied. Her knees weakened, her lungs seized. Every instinct commanded her to flee, but the thing in the sky pressed against her thoughts until even terror became impossible. A voice entered her mind, not through words, but through absence. Sleep. Ilyra gripped the brass railing until her fingernails split.
No!
The pressure intensified. The stone beneath her seemed to tilt toward the heavens. She saw a vast figure sleeping beyond the sky, curled around a dead star. Its dreams poured into the world like poison through a crack. Sleep.
No!
The observatory door burst open behind her. An old man stumbled onto the platform. He wore a pilgrim's cloak stiff with frost, though the air was warm. Around his neck hung a black amulet shaped like an incomplete circle. At its center floated a shard of darkness that reflected nothing. The old man tore the chain from his neck and thrust it into Ilyra's hands. The instant she touched it, the voice disappeared. The pressure vanished. Her fear remained, but it could no longer command her body. The pilgrim smiled with bloodless lips.
It has found another bearer.
Then he collapsed. Ilyra knelt beside him, but his skin had already turned cold. There was no wound upon him, no sign of poison or disease. He looked less like a man who had died than one whose life had quietly moved elsewhere. She looked down at the amulet. The fragment within its ring pulsed once. Far above the city, something in the lightless heavens opened its eyes. The dead pilgrim carried no name. His boots were worn through, his palms scarred, and his cloak contained dust from lands beyond every map in the Basilica archives. Sewn into its lining were scraps of parchment covered in the same sentence, repeated hundreds of times in dozens of languages. Do not let the sleeper know you are awake. The clergy wanted the body burned. High Luminary Zed, master of the Basilica, ordered the amulet sealed beneath the sanctuary. He called it a profane object, a vessel of forbidden rites. Yet when the priests attempted to take it from Ilyra, every lamp in the chamber went dark. In that darkness, something moved between them. The priests screamed. One fell unconscious. Another tore at his own eyes, claiming that he had seen a hand reaching through the ceiling. Only Ilyra remained standing. The amulet rested against her chest, cold as winter iron. When the lamps were relit, long black marks covered the walls. They resembled the impressions of enormous fingers. After that, no one tried to remove the relic. Ilyra spent the following nights studying the pilgrim's writings. Most were fragments, descriptions of cities where every inhabitant had fallen asleep simultaneously. sketches of faceless beings gathered around beds, and warnings about a presence known only as the sleeper beyond the veil. The oldest fragment told of an order called the Wakeful. They believed that dreams were not born within the mortal mind. Dreams were reflections from another realm, an ocean of thoughts stretching beyond matter. Every sleeping creature touched that ocean, and something lived at its deepest point. The Wakeful had learned to resist it. They forged relics from the remnants of a star that had died before the creation of the sun. Those relics allowed their bearers to stand at the threshold of nightmares without being overwhelmed. But resistance demanded payment. A note written in the pilgrim's own trembling hand described the price. The relic does not create strength. It moves strength from one form into another. Flesh becomes veil. Blood becomes armor. Life becomes distance. Ilyra did not understand until she cut her palm. She had been examining the amulet's chain when a broken clasp sliced into her skin. Blood welled from the wound, but before a single drop could fall, a faint silver membrane shimmered across her hand. The cut closed. At the same moment, her heartbeat slowed. A strange coldness spread through her fingers. It was not numbness. She could still feel the table beneath them. Yet the warmth of her body seemed farther away, separated from her by an invisible layer. The amulet's central shard brightened. Ilyra realized the truth. The relic had not healed her. It had taken a portion of her living strength and transformed it into something else. Something that did not belong to the body. That night, the sleeping citizens began to speak in unison. Thousands of voices rose behind the walls of Veyr.
He sees the wakeful one.
Ilyra stood alone in the observatory as the words echoed through the city.
He sees the little flame.
Above her, the clouds slowly parted. There were still no stars, only a vast circular darkness surrounded by a crown of pale light. An eye. The amulet tightened around Ilyra's throat, and for the first time since the endless night began, the thing above Veyr spoke aloud.
Give me back what was taken.
Panic consumed Veyr. Citizens crowded the basilica steps, demanding protection. Others locked themselves inside their homes and drove nails through their eyelids to remain awake. Fire spread through the southern district, unattended because the watchmen had fallen asleep at their posts. Those who dreamed did not wake unchanged. Some emerged with shadows that moved independently of them. Others possessed memories of places they had never visited. A baker murdered his family because he believed they had been replaced by creatures wearing familiar skin. The clergy continued to preach that dawn would return. Ilyra knew it would not. The darkness was no natural eclipse. The sleeper had drawn Veyr partly into its realm, and every dream pulled the city deeper. She descended into the basilica archives in search of records left by the wakeful. The lowest chambers had been sealed for generations, their doors engraved with warnings against entering in darkness. The amulet opened them. When Ilyra approached, the iron locks rusted into dust. Beyond them lay a circular chamber filled with statues. Each depicted a robed figure wearing an incomplete ring around the neck. Their faces had been deliberately carved away. At the chamber's center stood a stone mirror. Its surface did not reflect Ilyra. Instead, it showed her sleeping upon the floor. A tall shape knelt beside her reflected body. Its limbs bent in too many places. A smooth veil of darkness covered its face. The creature raised one finger to its lips. Then the image of Ilyra opened her eyes.
Behind you.
The reflection whispered. Ilyra turned. The creature stood at the chamber entrance. Terror struck her with enough force to stop her heart. The thing crossed the room without moving, appearing closer each time she blinked. Yet her body did not collapse. The amulet's cold presence spread across her chest, and a translucent shell formed around her skin. The creature reached for her, but its fingers halted a hair's breadth from her face. The shell rippled. With every impact, Ilyra felt something leave her, warmth from her blood, strength from her muscles, the living urgency of her heartbeat. In exchange, the invisible barrier hardened. The creature struck again. She did not flinch, not because she was brave, because the relic had placed her beyond the reach of instinct. Ilyra seized a fallen iron candlestick and drove it through the creature's throat. No blood emerged. Its body folded inward like burning paper, collapsing into a knot of black threads. When it vanished, something remained on the floor. A human tooth. Ilyra recognized the gold inlay. It had belonged to Priest Arvin, one of the men who had attempted to remove the amulet from her. The creatures were not entering Veyr from elsewhere. They were being shaped from those who slept. A voice came from the stone mirror.
You can resist fear,
Said Ilyra's reflection.
but resistance is not victory.
The reflected woman stood. The tall creature behind her placed both hands upon her shoulder.
You are changing.
The mirror's surface cleared. This time, Ilyra saw herself as she truly was. Her skin had become pale. Thin lines of silver light traced the veins around her heart. Behind her body floated the faint outline of another form, larger than her own and composed entirely of shadow. The amulet was building something around her, or awakening something within her. Ilyra ordered the bells rung without pause. Their thunder kept some citizens awake, but exhaustion eventually overcame even the strongest. The people of Veyr collapsed in workshops, streets, and prayer halls. As they slept, figures gathered around them. The dream-born creatures came in countless shapes. Some crawled from beneath beds, wearing the voices of dead relatives. Others descended from ceilings like spiders formed from human limbs. The most dangerous resembled ordinary people until they smiled, revealing empty darkness behind their teeth. Ilyra hunted them through the city. Blades passed through her silver barrier, claws shattered against it. The creatures whispered horrors into her mind, but their words could not stagger her. The citizens began calling her the Pale Guardian. They did not see what each battle cost. She no longer felt hunger. Her hands had lost their warmth. Her pulse had slowed to 3 beats each minute, and wounds no longer bled. The amulet continued converting her mortal vitality into the unseen shell surrounding her. She was becoming harder to kill. She was also becoming less alive. High Luminary Seared confronted her beneath the bell tower.
You must surrender the relic.
He said,
It is consuming you.
It is keeping the city alive.
It is keeping you standing. That is not the same thing.
Zed showed her a manuscript recovered from the sealed archives. It described the final days of the Wakeful. The Order had not been destroyed by the Sleeper. Its members had transformed. Each bearer had slowly surrendered the substance of mortal life until only an incorporeal guardian remained. Without hunger, pain, sleep, or fear, they believed themselves perfected. Then they lost compassion. When ordinary people begged for protection, the Wakeful saw only fragile creatures destined to dream. They abandoned entire kingdoms and withdrew beyond the Veil, where they became silent sentinels around the dead star.
The relic will make you like them.
Sued warned. A scream echoed from the streets below. Ilyra ran to the tower window. Hundreds of citizens stood motionless in the square. Their eyes were open, but they were sleeping. Together, they turned toward the basilica. Together, they spoke.
Little flame.
The crowd began climbing the steps. The doors were barred, but the sleepers hurled themselves against them without concern for broken bones. More gathered from every street, forming a silent sea around the basilica.
The sleeper wants the relic.
Ilyra said.
No.
Siad replied.
It wants the fragment inside it.
He pointed to the amulet center.
That darkness is part of the dead star around which it dreams. The relic is not merely a shield. It is a piece of its prison.
The doors below splintered. The sleepers flooded the basilica. Ilyra descended to meet them, but she could not strike without killing innocent people. They seized her arms and legs, dragging her toward the sanctuary. The silver barrier flared, throwing them back. Every impact drained more warmth from her body. At the far end of the hall, Sirid began ringing a small ceremonial bell. Its clear tone cut through the murmuring crowd. For one moment, the sleepers hesitated. Then a shadow rose behind the high luminary. A long hand pierced his chest. Soraya fell without a sound. The shadow wore the face of the dead pilgrim. It looked at Ilyra and smiled.
You mistake endurance for defiance.
It said,
Every shield is only a door that has forgotten how to open.
The creature wearing the pilgrim's face called itself the Emissary. It moved among the sleepers without touching the ground. Wherever its shadow passed, the basilica's golden icons blackened. Ilyra attacked. Her blade cut through the emissary's body, but the wound closed around the metal. It seized her by the throat and lifted her from the floor. The silver barrier blazed between them. For the first time, something cracked. Not the barrier. Ilyra. A memory vanished. She could no longer recall her mother's voice. The emissary struck again. Another memory disappeared, the smell of rain upon the observatory roof. Each blow forced the amulet to draw from deeper within her. It had already taken blood, warmth, and physical strength. Now it consumed the invisible substance from which identity was formed. Ilyra understood the final cost. When the body had nothing left to surrender, the relic would convert the soul itself. She drove both hands into the emissary's chest and released the barrier outward. Silver light erupted through the basilica. The creature's borrowed face tore apart. Beneath it churned a void, filled with countless sleeping eyes. The blast hurled the emissary through the sanctuary doors and scattered the entranced citizens across the floor. For several seconds, the sleepers awoke.
Go!
Ilyra shouted. Some fled. Others stared at her in horror. Her shadow no longer matched her body. Behind her stretched the outline of a tall, faceless figure. The people crossed themselves and backed away. The pale guardian had become another monster. Ilyra carried Sarid's body to the sanctuary. In his hand she found a scrap of parchment, torn from the recovered manuscript. It contained a map. Beneath Veyr lay an ancient structure called the Cathedral of Quiet Minds, V. Wakeful had built it around a natural fracture between the waking world and the ocean of dreams. From there, a bearer could enter the sleeper's realm without surrendering to sleep. There was also a warning. The one who enters may close the path. The one who closes the path may never leave it. Ilyra looked at the dead High Luminary. She tried to remember his voice. It was already fading. Outside, the city screamed as the darkness deepened. Buildings bent toward impossible angles. Streets looped back upon themselves. Dream and reality were merging. Ilyra descended alone into the crypts. At their lowest point, she found a staircase leading deeper than the foundations of the city. The walls were covered with carvings of open eyes. As she passed, each eye closed. The staircase ended before a door made from polished black stone. The amulet fit perfectly into a circular hollow at its center. When Ilyra pressed it forward, the incomplete ring became whole. The door opened. Beyond it stretched a cathedral larger than the city above. Thousands of faceless statues knelt along its central aisle. At the far end, suspended over an abyss, burned a black star. Around it stood the remnants of the wakeful. They were no longer human. They turned toward Ilyra as one. And though none possessed mouths, she heard their greeting within her mind.
Another has come to remain.
The wakeful surrounded Ilyra. Their bodies were translucent, formed from overlapping layers of darkness and silver flame. Beneath their robes, no flesh remained. Each wore an amulet identical to hers, though their central fragments had fused into their chests. They had endured for centuries without sleep, pain, or death. They had also forgotten their names. Their leader approached. A crown of broken chains floated above its featureless head.
The sleeper turns in its prison,
It said within Ilyra's thoughts.
The fragment you bear was removed from the hollow star. Without it, the prison cannot remain sealed.
Then take it.
It cannot be returned by hand. The fragment has rooted itself in you.
Ilyra looked down. Silver veins now spread across her entire body. The amulet's darkness pulsed in rhythm with her failing heart.
How do I restore it?
The wakeful raised one hand toward the abyss. Within its depths, Ilyra saw Veyr. The city floated like a reflection beneath black water. Around it coiled the immense outline of the sleeper.
Enter its dream. Carry the fragment to the heart of the hollow star.
And then,
The wakeful did not answer. They did not need to. Ilyra stepped to the edge. The emissary emerged behind her. It had followed her into the cathedral, though it no longer wore the pilgrim's face. Its true form towered over the statues, a skeletal figure wrapped in curtains of night, with a vertical mouth splitting its torso. The wakeful did not move to stop it.
We cannot act against the dream that created us.
Their leader said. Ilyra understood then. The wakeful were not merely guardians of the prison. They'd become part of the sleeper's dream. Their immortality bound them to the very thing they opposed. The emissary opened its mouth. A wave of despair swept through the cathedral. Statues shattered. Silver fires went dark. Ilyra felt the force strike her barrier, but she remained standing. The creature lunged. Its claws tore through one layer of protection, then another. Memories burst from Ilyra like sparks. She forgot the names of streets, the faces of teachers, the sound of her own childhood laughter. Still, she did not fall. She wrapped the amulet's chain around her fist and drove the black fragment into the emissary's open torso. The creature convulsed. For an instant, Ilyra saw what existed inside it. Not hatred, not hunger, fear. The sleeper was afraid of waking. Its dreams were not an invasion. They were a desperate attempt to bury the world beneath enough unconscious minds that it would never have to face reality. Ilyra pulled the fragment free. The emissary collapsed into a storm of black ash. The wakeful bowed.
You have seen its truth.
Yes.
Then you understand why it must remain asleep.
Ilyra looked into the abyss.
no, I understand why someone must stand beside it when it wakes.
Before the wakeful could stop her, she stepped from the edge. She fell upward into the dead star. Ilyra landed upon a shore of white dust. Above her hung an ocean. Beneath its inverted waves drifted the dreams of every sleeping creature. Kingdoms of impossible architecture, memories of the dead, fears given flesh, and unborn ideas waiting for minds to receive them. At the center of that impossible realm lay the sleeper. It was larger than mountains. Its body curled around the hollow star, bound by chains of pale fire. Every breath created a century of nightmares. Every twitch of its fingers rearranged the streets of Veyr. Ilyra walked toward its face. With each step, the amulet took more from her. Her lungs ceased moving. Her heart stopped. The last warmth left her skin. She continued. The sleeper's eye opened. Inside its pupil, Ilyra saw herself standing in the observatory on the first night. She saw all the choices she might have made. In one life, she abandoned the city. In another, she surrendered the amulet. In another, she became one of the wakeful and watched humanity vanish without sorrow. The sleeper spoke.
You have no life left to spend.
Ilyra held the amulet before her.
Then take what remains.
What remains is you.
Yes,
The sleeper smiled without a mouth. The amulet shattered. Its incomplete ring broke into fragments, but the darkness at its center remained suspended above Ilyra's palm. Silver light flowed out of her body and wrapped around it. Her final memories rose around her. The bells at dawn, her mother singing, seared warning her beneath the tower. The nameless pilgrim placing the relic in her hands. One by one, she released them. The dark fragment grew until it became a small, perfect star. Ilyra pressed it against the sleeper's brow. The hollow star awakened. Its black light erupted across the dream ocean. The chains around the sleeper broke, but instead of reaching for the mortal world, the ancient being recoiled. For the first time since before the sun was born, it saw something standing before it without fear. Ilyra possessed no beating heart, no warm blood. and almost no memory of being human. Yet, a single conviction remained beyond the amulet's reach. No consciousness should face eternity alone. The sleeper stared at her.
What are you?
Ilyra could no longer remember her name.
I am the one who remain.
The sleeper reached toward her. She did not flinch. Their shadows touched. The dream's motion became still. Far above, the darkness over Veyr cracked. Dawn poured through. The bells rang again. Their voices crossed a city transformed by nightmare. Towers leaned at impossible angles. Entire streets had vanished. Thousands had died in their sleep. But the survivors awoke. The creatures dissolved with the morning mist. Shadows returned to their rightful places. The river carried away its black sand, and the first sunlight in weeks turned the basilica windows into sheets of gold. No one found Ilyra. Beneath the city, the Cathedral of Quiet Minds had disappeared. Only a circular chamber remained, empty, except for a new carving upon the floor. It depicted a woman standing before a kneeling giant. Around her neck hung an incomplete ring containing a dark star. In the years that followed, travelers brought strange stories to Veyr. They spoke of children waking from nightmares after hearing a woman's voice telling them they were not alone. Soldiers facing unspeakable creatures described a sudden stillness that prevented terror from controlling their limbs. Those poisoned by unnatural corruptions sometimes saw a pale figure standing beside them, drawing the darkness from their bodies into an unseen shield. Yet every miracle carried a warning. The saved often forgot something precious, a beloved face, a cherished song, the reason they had once feared death. Protection was never freely given. Life became armor, memory became distance, flesh became veil. The clergy recorded these accounts in a new scripture. They no longer called the power a blessing, nor did they condemn it as a curse. They named it a vigil. As for the sleeper, it never again reached into the mortal world. It remained beyond the veil, beside the hollow star, but it no longer slept alone. A figure stood eternally before it, pale and motionless, wrapped in an armor no weapon could touch. She remembered neither her city nor her name. She could not recall why the bells had mattered, or whose voice had once sung to her beneath the morning sun. But she remembered her promise. Whenever the sleeper stirred, she placed one hand against its brow. Whenever nightmares gathered, she opened her eyes. Whenever the darkness whispered that all living things must eventually surrender to fear, she answered with the final fragment of the woman she had once been.
No.
And throughout the hidden places of the world, those who resisted the call of oblivion began wearing the symbol of an incomplete circle. They called it the Vigil of the Hollow Star. Its oldest inscription contained neither prayer nor commandment, only a truth. To stand beyond fear, one must leave something living behind.